Hello, Stroke Lines, and this video is going to show how you can use macros to quickly replace missing values. In the example I have here, so a lot of online vendors, the tools, the program they give you the data from, they'll show flags where if somebody selected yes or whatever, it'll have a 1 there, but it doesn't show you if they did when it was missing. So in this case, this respondent number 4 selected these first 5. They didn't select this one or this one. They did select this one. Not here, not here. Right? There's a lot of missing stuff in here. This guy selected 1. This guy selected this one and this one, but not here. Here, each row is a respondent. Right? I've deleted a lot of the other variables just to simplify this. But it can be time consuming, especially in your entire data set, to go through and put in zeros everywhere, because that's what you want to do. And what I usually do is I put in zeros, and then I compute the average, which gives me the mean. And statistically, it gives you a bimodal variable, so you can do a lot with that. Of course, the trick is, how do you go about doing that? And with syntax, you can go through and you can write a code for each variable, but it can be very time consuming. And so I have a macro that uses the do repeat, and I'm going to bring it over. Oh, let me see. I got it right here. Okay. So macros are pretty awesome in SPSS. You can automate a lot of stuff. What I've done here is I'm defining my replace missing. This one's 2. It was actually after this one, but I think it makes more sense to explain this one first, then I'll explain what the next one is. So I tell it basically I'm going to have 2 parameters, and basically if you think of them as just placeholders. So here's the beginning one, and it's going to take up 1 token. Right, so 1 I think of as 1 variable or 1 word, and then the second one, so BEG, which is for beginning to me, and end. So what I use it as my beginning variable and my end variable, and everything in between those, because in here when I'm calling it, I have the word to, right? So because normally these kinds of questions are in sets, and it's just easier for me to say, instead of listing every variable, I can get the first one and the last one, and it's just quicker and easier. So the do repeat, right, it's a little funky in that this V here, basically it's also a placeholder, so we're going to say do repeat, and then when we call it, it's going to put in this, so in my example here, let's go back to the data set. These are my variables, right? The first one is job, RES, I forget what that actually stood for, but corporate communications, marketing communications, blah, blah, blah. So the first one will be corporate communications, and the last one, which is still numeric, is just other. And it had to do with whether they actually wrote in an other, which I've deleted from this data file. So my first one is going to be, you know what, and I'm going to copy it here just so you make sure you understand what I'm saying. So right here, this would be, in this case, it would be right here, right? I'd be putting it in there. And then I would be putting the one I just mentioned, the other end, this variable, right here. And so basically we're saying from the first one to the last one, create this thing called V, and then basically do it in this loop, right? And so everything between this do repeat here to end repeat, it's going to go through each one of these variables. If there was 20 lines here, it would do all 20 lines. And then all you do is the V placeholder, so first it's going to pick the first one. You know what would be helpful is, let me grab this, and I'm going to make this visible. So the first time it goes through, it's going to be the job RES corporate communications, and it goes through it and it says if missing, and just picture this job resource corporate communications in here, if missing that, then make that equal 0. And then it says end repeat, and then it actually has to execute inside the macro. But it wouldn't get to that. It does all these first, and then it does that finally at the end. So it would come here, do repeat. It'd pick the second one, job resource marketing communications. So the second time through, it's marketing communications. That goes here. That goes here. And then if marketing communications is missing, make marketing communications equal 0. And then it says, okay, what's the next one? Media relations, right? And it goes through that loop over and over until it goes through all of the variables, because that's what I've told it to do. I've said go from here to here. I could have listed all of them. I like having tighter syntax, just having a short. So it will go through each of these things. And then do the exe, and then this is where it ends the macro. And so down here, these are the parameters where I tell it, this is the name of my macro, which is up here. I've defined it, missing 2, and this is where I call it, and it's actually the exclamation point missing 2. So I want to call this macro, and then you have to tell it what parameters you want to use. So for BEG, for the beginning variable, I want to put in, this one, right? And for the end variable, put in this one, and that's how I call it. So now, you'll see here, again, there's missing values, right? And the second that I call this, you know what, let me see if I can bring this down so we can watch both at the same time. So I don't have to call, I've already defined it. If I hadn't defined it, I have to run this, and you'll see here when I do run it, my output says, hey, this syntax macro is already defined. It's going to replace it. Yeah, I don't care because I know it's the same one. So I'm just going to close that. And now when I call my macro, when I run it, you'll see, bam, right? All the zeros get put in place. The ones stayed where they were because I didn't tell it, if it's not missing, don't do anything with it. So it's very quick and easy. I could have done groups of variables, but anyways, this is quick and easy. Now, however, one thing I realized was, in survey research, often people drop out of a survey, right? So let's say and let's add a few more in here where this is missing. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me. I need to go import my data file and clear it. So clean it up a little bit. Alright, so now we're back to having all the missing values, and I'm going to get rid of a bunch of these. So the point being, hey, if the person actually dropped out of the survey, I don't want to put zeros in here, because really they probably never even saw this question, and that would throw off my averages and anything else I'm doing. So what I want to do is say, you know what, I only want to put in a 0 here if there's a value in this one. And so that's what the second macro does. When we scroll down to this one, I say, okay, it's the same. If you look at it, if we look at both at the same time, you'll see it's really the same thing. The only thing different, and this one probably should be like first or last, just to show that it's different, is I have a present token. And yes, I can't spell because I know present is not with a Z. But basically what I've done is I've just told it, hey, only do this if this PREZ, whatever I tell it to be, is greater than 0. Of course, that's not going to work for a string variable, but my data sets are never that way. It easily could be reconstructed if that is something that happens for you. And here, I've predefined it, said, okay, look if membership is here. If membership is here, right, so just picture this membership being right here. Do the rest of this if membership is greater than 0. And if it's not, it won't do anything. And so I just combine a do if with a do repeat. So, and just think of it this way, it's an if statement. If present is greater than 0, run this for that variable. If it's not, don't do it. And they're just embedded inside each other. So now, when I run this one, you'll see here, let me shrink this up a bit again, because what you'll notice is, watch the ones who, I'm going to delete a few more. Watch the ones that don't have a value under membership. And I'm on, oh, I was on the wrong one there, here we go. So I'm saying the membership is present, and this is my beginning and end. Now when I run this one, see how they stayed blank, right? And that way now, I should have done a before and after of computing the means, just to show you. So, and actually I think I still, let me see if I do descriptives, and up here I have these already where I was just keeping just those, so I won't keep membership. So now I'm going to do descriptives on this, and just showing the mean. Right, so this says there's 163, right? There's 163 because in my data set, even though I have more rows, 172 rows, it did not compute for those that had missing ones, right? It did not compute them. And the means are, here. Now, because I'm just going to go ahead and rerun the first macro, this one does not take into account, so you're going to see these zeros pop up here. See, now there's zeros there. Now when I go back and rerun this, you'll notice it's up to 172, and let's say this is the website was at 46%, here was at 48. Right, it was at 48 because there were fewer rows because there were less zeros, and so it slightly would have tweaked some of my averages. But anyway, that's it. It's a nice example of how easy it is to build a macro, to automate some of the stuff you're doing, and make it a lot easier to deal with missing data. Thank you.